Alright, this is a 1995 Toyota Corolla. This is the rear strut. I'm going to show you how to get this out of here. I've already taken the seats out, the back seats out. I'll show you how to put those back in at the end of this. And I've already done some stuff, but I'll show you how that goes down too. Okay, like I said, I've already done a couple of things here, so I was going to show you what you're going to have to do. There's a nut here. I believe this thing's called a sway bar. What you're going to have to do is break this nut, so just like you would lefty-loosey. Once it's broken, you need to get an Allen wrench, like that one, stick that in here, take an open end spanner wrench and go in here, and you'll keep going lefty-loosey with this, and just hold your Allen wrench tight in there. Okay, so hold your Allen wrench steady while you're turning that nut. Alright, the other thing I'd already done, so I went ahead and kind of put it back together. Your brake lines run through this damn thing, and so what you'll have to do is break this clip. There's a clip right here, if you can see it. Take this thing and snap it out of there. It'll be a little tighter than what I've got it in there, because I've already done this once. And snap it out of there. Next thing you have to do is actually release the damn brake lines. I wouldn't do that until we got everything darn near completely apart. That way you're not losing brake fluid. Alright, so I've pulled away from the car here so you can see what I'm doing, how I'm getting into the car. So this is the back door is open, okay? I'm going to walk on over here. I'm going to come on in. And then here is the top of the strut. Underneath this thing here, this little panel here, that is the strut mount underneath there, okay? And what I got to do is snap these nuts free, which wasn't so bad. I've already done did the front struts. They were a nightmare. But you just snap these while this is in place, and then snap this hopefully while it's in place. If it's real tight, you don't have to do it outside the, well, you know, once you release these three, you have the strut on the ground. You'll have to take a hammer and smack the wrench. Just smack it until that thing breaks free. Or you can take vice grips and hold the rod. I just beat the crap out of mine. That's all I did. Okay, so that's what I'm doing next. So haven't released the brake lines. I showed you everything I've done up to now. So I'm going to release these nuts and then probably get to those brake lines. Alright, hopefully you can see this. Let me see if I got some light here. Okay, as you can see, the sway bar is missing. I've got that done. Brake line's still attached. I'm trying to save that till one of the last things. I've loosened the nuts up here at the top, you know, behind the seat. Like I said, I'll show you how to get that seat out of here when I put them back in. Then we've got to snap these nuts. Oh, sorry. Got to snap these nuts. Snap these. There's two here. I've already done that. They weren't that difficult. Like I said, the fronts were a damn nightmare. So I'm gonna snap these. And I think what I'll do is I'll actually release this thing from here. See, this is a stiff brake line though. I'm probably gonna have to do that brake line first. So I'll have to let this brake line free. You might want to make sure you have some brake fluid around, because you've been bound to lose some brake fluid in this process right here. I don't know why they ran the brake lines through the strut, but they did. All right. Okay, I went ahead and snapped free the brake line. As you can see, it's free. I've got it kind of just hanging here. The flexible end is hanging here at the strut. I'm trying to keep fluid from running out of it. The sway bar, of course, is down. I was going to give you some information about this. This is a 10mm wrench to break that. This is a number 5 Allen wrench and a number 14 for the nut. 14mm, I mean 14mm for the nut. Also, these are 17s here. Okay, these freaking nuts back here. So there's 17mm. All right. So the next thing I'm going to do is snap these. Okay, as you can see, I've got this those nuts released. My biggest issue is this is a rigid brake line, and see how it's as I push back here, see how it's grabbing hold of that brake line. This thing is dropped. So I'm saying the suspension is just dropped. The rest of the suspension, and so it's just hanging right now. So I can move this up and down. It's pretty simple to move, but as I pull back though, it wants to grab that brake line. We got to be careful that don't happen. So what I'm going to have to do is now, since these are already released up here, the stuff inside the car, behind the back seat, since that stuff is already released, all I got to do is let go of those 3 nuts, and that thing will drop, and I should be able to get this out without damaging that brake line. So let's find out. Okay, that worked. What I did was went up here, because remember it was grabbing the brake line, came around here and undid those 3 nuts in the behind the seat here. I let those go. The last one was pretty tight because it's the only thing supporting it, and then I reached in to the wheel well like so. If you can see what I'm doing here, I reached under here, held the strut, and released that last nut. And when it came loose, I just held it, came around here, let her down, and kind of gently weaseled it out of there. Okay, next, so here's the deal. So there's the strut, it's on the ground. The next thing I'm gonna have to do is I picked up a strut compressor at AutoZone, and that's what I'm going to do, is compress this spring. The whole reason I'm replacing these struts is that the front, one of my front mounts, strut mounts, it wasn't good. It was completely broken out. So that's why I'm doing this. So I've actually got rear mounts. They're like $50 for the rear ones. The front ones are like $30 for those mounts. I've also got the struts. That was $59, I believe, per strut, something like that. Okay. So let me get on the spring compressor. Okay, just for the record, this is the strut compressor. It's a strut spring compressor is what it says on the box. It's got these little hooks, and what I'm going to do is hook them on as best I can. Oh, sorry. Pointing at the wrong thing. You're probably going to attach them one side here to there, and the other side here to there, or here to there, and compress these springs so I can get this damn strut out of here. So I can break, and actually I need to break this nut when that's over. When I have this compressed completely, I'll break that nut right there. It's already broken. I broke it in the car, but I'll get it off of there. Alright, here we are again. Spring, as you can see, I put the spring compressors on just like I said, in those very spots that I said I was going to put them. And as you can see, this is the end of the spring coil, and it's popping out of its base here. It's also pulled away from the top strut here, the strut mount. Yes. Okay, so what I'm going to do now is get this nut. If you can see it, that nut right there, out of there. And we're going to replace this piece. Alright. Okay, I've got the strut apart. This is the actual strut. This is the old strut. Okay. What you're going to need, you're going to keep this spring. This piece I'm replacing, so I don't even give a damn about it. I may care about this, I'm not sure. But this little spacer, I don't know, I might need that, I have no idea. But at this point, this is the nut that held this to the top of this, was screwed into this, which is, so the nut, that thing, that's the strut mount. Top of this, strut ran through there, that nut screwed onto here, this piece here. This piece we're going to need, this little rubber piece, base, we need this piece, okay, which is pretty nasty. But you can see where the coil was sitting in this little groove here. By the way, this little notch here, that's where the coil is supposed to land. So that's where this will, sorry, I'm trying to do this. That's where this will land, right in this little notch here. You see it? Okay. So I was just going to show you the new strut mount. This is the new strut mount. I'm not sure if this is left or right. There's a left and a right, so I'm not sure about that. But this is what it came with. It came with new bolts to mount the strut to the body of the car, and this thing. And then these are just covered. These are just covers over the screws, keep them from getting damaged. We're going to take them off because we don't care. And I'll find out which one's which here in a second. And then I will attach it. Remember that spacer I was talking about? I might need to save? Well, it didn't come with a spacer, so I guess I'm going to need to save that. All right. Okay, I just wanted to show you the new stuff. This is the new strut here. This section here, know that this faces directly straight out from the car. Having said that, this is the old strut mount. Notice that this blue mark indicates that this faces directly out from the car. The new strut mount did not include this spacer, and when I went to AutoZone, they did not tell me which one was left and which one was right. They just gave me the boxes, and you can figure it out, I'm sure, by looking at the part numbers. But there's a left and a right, and the reason for that is that the orientation of the bottom piece is different. And the way you can tell the difference is, see how thick this is on this side and how thin it is on this side. So when you set them next to each other, you want them to have that same orientation. I didn't get this boot. You might ask about at the store if you want to get a boot or whatever. Anyway, so that's how you'll know this new strut mount, keep spacer. Know that this orientation is out with the things like this. Okay, this is out. I'm doing the right side. So, okay. Also, when you get your strut, don't be confused by this. This is just a brace that keeps this in. Keeps this thing down. You'll have to snap this off, and when you do, this thing's gonna pop out. Okay, so don't get freaked out by that. All right, and make sure that you got your right side strut when you're doing your right side. And how you can tell that? Well, this was facing front. This is where the brake lines come through. So, and this is where the sway bar. This is where the sway bar attaches. Brake line comes through there. Sway bar there. Okay, as you can see, I've got this thing back in. I put the little gasket, or I don't know what you call it, a damper piece underneath the spring. I've got let's see if I can show you that. I've got a lot of sun in my eyes now. But see this, I don't know if you can see it, but that's the coil spring sitting in its little notch in the damper sitting in the little notch in the base. Okay, so next is attach the new strut mount right here. That's him right there. And what I'm going to do is orient. I really need to mark this thing. I think I will. Orient, because this is the old one. I'm trying to go by this one. So the orient of this one was so like that. So this should be pointing. So this should be pointing in the same direction. In the same direction. Let me see if I can do it. This area, based on this one, should be pointing in this line along this to where it's facing this thing. Okay, so that means that this thing's going to basically go on just like it is. So I'm just going to tilt. I'm going to take that thing and tilt it up. Poof, put it on there. Try and keep that orientation right there along that line. Okay, that is the orientation we were talking about. So you see where the blue dot is? I know I'm saying this stuff over and over again, but I want you to be clear on what you're doing. Okay, we've got this thing supposedly oriented the way we want it. Spring is in there. Nut is on here. Spacer is underneath that thing. I'm about to release the springs, and hopefully this thing will stay oriented correctly as the spring comes loose. Okay, so that's what we're about to do. I'm going to take those spring compressors off. That is the shock. There's strut, I'm sorry. That is the strut. I'm about to install this thing in this damn car. I'm going to try and line up this bottom piece here behind that, behind this son of a bitch here, and then I'm going to, when I get it pretty darn close, I'm actually going to attach the top first, because that's how I kind of pull this thing apart. So I'm just going to go in reverse order, and hopefully this will all work out. There's no way for me to film this exactly, so I'll get back to you when I get it in. I'll show you the pieces of the steps that I did it in. Okay. All right. This is the part that everybody waits for. This is the part where I'm having trouble. Why am I having trouble? Well, I'll tell you. Here's what happened. I went up around the behind the seat here, and I got the 3 bolts on, but then this thing is not lining up. These 2 bolts that are down here, they're not lining up. So what I did was I got it pretty close and stuck a screwdriver in there. And what I'll have to do at this point is release up here behind the seat let it back down, and then maybe this will kick out a little bit, and maybe I can get a bolt in there. If I get the bolt in there, then I probably get the bolt in the bottom, and at that point I'll move on. By the way, I meant to tell you, when I released this brake line, after I got everything ready to go, I released this brake line, and brake fluid's going everywhere. As you can see, it's just all under the car. Well, so what I did, because I got tired of watching it drip, and I got tired of watching my brake fluid dwindle, I went ahead and just reattached it. And like right now, I've got it reattached just so it'll stop dripping all over the place. So that's what I'm gonna do. At this point, I'm gonna come up here behind the seat again. I'll show you. I have, see where the bolts are. So I've got them in already. And what I'll do is I'll release those bolts out of those nuts, and then that'll hopefully let that thing kick out some more, and I'll get this thing in. I'll let you know if that works. Okay, that worked. So it's attached to the bottom. I had to release these 3 nuts up here at the top behind the seat, and that way I was able to kick this thing out this way, kick this strut out towards me, and get these things in, get these 2 bolts in. By the way, in this whole process, I just want to make it clear, be careful of this brake line. This is a rigid brake line, and you've got to get everything lined up before you start moving around it. Make this your priority. Do not break that, or you're going to have to go back down to the store, bleed your brakes worse than you had before. You're going to I'm going to probably bleed these anyway, but you don't want to bleed them. You don't want to do your whole brake system if you don't have to. Okay, in the process of getting these in, I was able to get this sway bar nut on. This is what you call a hammer. I basically had to take my wrench here and put, this is a 17 millimeter, yeah, 17 millimeter wrench, and once I got this bolt started, I just started cranking on it, and it started screwing itself in. When it got over here, it was when it got to the end though, it was not lined up. What I was able to do was take this and actually twist it, take the shock and twist it, and that actually made this line up, and then I was able to just hammer it through. So I was twisting and hammering, basically did the same thing here. Once this one lined up though, this one lined up pretty easily. Okay, I am going to start really attaching this stuff and kind of finish up, and I'll let you see when I get done. By the way, remember this thing, I think is a 14. I remember there's an Allen head. There's an Allen head inside this thing. So that's things. So now I'm going to twist. I'm going to righty-tighty on this thing and keep my Allen wrench stable. You know, just in one position. Okay, and I'll be back when I get a little. Okay, I was just going to finally show you this, exactly what I'm talking about. See the Allen wrench? I've got the Allen wrench wedged right here. It's inside this sway bar. This is a 14 millimeters open-end wrench, and what I've done is I've got that Allen wrench in a steady position. And I don't know why they made it this way. I have no idea, but that's the way it is. So I'm just going to show you how I'm doing that. Also, don't forget to tighten down the nut that is holding this, the strut mount, the spring, and all this together. That middle nut, which there's no way you could tighten it down good in the on the ground. So tighten it once you get it all installed, and get everything attached and in place, but not tight before you start doing anything. Make sure everything's loose. Make sure everything's in place, but everything's loose, and then start tightening everything down. Just and make a mental note and tighten it again. If you don't remember if you got it, do it again. You know, hit it again. There's nothing wrong with doing it twice, just to make sure. Alright, so there you have it. There is the wheel back on. Struts in place. All the nuts are tight. Double checked. I imagine for you, you're going to need to go do another strut. But after you get done with that, put your seat back in and go have a beer or 12. Okay, finally. I told you I'd show you how to pull these seats out. Pretty simple. This bottom piece is going to come out first, this bottom piece here. And all you do is you get down here and right under, like where a person would sit right there, just, come on. Let's see what I got. I know it can be done. Hold on a sec. Okay, you just yank up. And I'll show you why you can do that here in just a second. Okay, so put a little muscle into it, and then as you can see, this thing just pops the hell out. It's really up in there, so when you're putting it back in, just push really tight and you can get it, you know, into its little latches. The little latches are right here, so it's not quite the middle of the seat. It's over here to the far side of the seat. Okay, and there's one on the other side too. Okay, now I've got this in here loosely so I can show you. Okay, when you get that out, the top, the back of the seat, over here on the driver's side, there's a nut, or well, it's a screw, I guess, or bolt. A bolt right there. There's one here in the center, right here. And there's one all the way over there. And so you just undo this one, yoink, that one's gone. And I'll get on in here and get this other one on the other side. And that one comes out. I got them loose, like I said. Okay, and then this thing just lifts out. Now you probably have seat belts in front of it. I got my seat belts behind it right now because I didn't take time to pull them out. Anyway, but you just lift up and get your seat belts out of it, get out of the way of it. So it's easier to do with two hands, by the way. Okay, and you lift up on this thing. I had to do that with two hands, sorry. Okay, this and then those things. There's three hooks, like I'll show you here. There's three hooks. Basically, that stick out. They're not really hooks. I don't know what the hell you call them. Just pieces of wire stick out. Those things fall down into these latches here, and there's three of them. And that is how you get your seats out. And just to put them back in, do that in reverse order. I hope that was helpful.